The Australian Financial Review.
Technical skills are one thing, but don't forget the value of soft skills.
I think a lot of people are really comfortable knowing that they can learn technical skills, that things like resilience and confidence are more innate, but I actually think you can really develop them. And so you shouldn't be holding yourself back because you think that you're not capable of doing that today.
Welcome to 15 Minutes with the Boss, a podcast about success, failure, and the lessons learnt along the way. I'm your host, Sally Patton, and my guest today is Lisa Chiba, the Chief Executive of Momentum Energy, an Australian energy company with a range of residential, small business and industrial customers. Hi Lisa, how are you?
Hi Sally, I'm very good, thank you.
Lisa, we don't have long. Indeed, we've only got 15 minutes. So I'm going to start the clock right now. Tell me about your morning routine. What does it look like?
So I have two young girls, they're aged 2 and 5. My routine is very much dictated by them. I would say they tend to get up at around 6 a.m. It could be anywhere from about 5:30 to 6:30 and I get jumped on. I could have kids in the bed. Who knows what's going on first thing. My husband is a keen triathlete, so he's often out on his early morning run or bike ride. So yeah, I'd love to say I had some really, mindful start to the day or productive start to the day, but it really is all about the girls first thing and getting them ready.
So how do you then handle the other end of the day when you want to see presumably the girls? How do you arrange that with your work?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, obviously, I'm quite lucky in my role. I've got a level of autonomy over my diary, and often the work that I need to do isn't scheduled, so it doesn't have to be at a specific time. Obviously, meetings need to cater for everybody who's involved, but I do have a lot of work where I can do those things in my own time. So whenever I can, I will try to head home a little bit early, be with the girls and the family, maybe take the dog for a quick walk. If we've got 5 minutes before dinner, try and have dinner together. I would be there most nights, I would say, for the kids' dinner at sort of 5:36. We divide and conquer on the bedtime routine, so we'll take a child each and we swap that each night for bedtime books and getting them kind of sleepy and into bed. And then after that, I'll have a little bit of downtime with my husband, maybe watch something on TV or, fold the washing or whatever's going. And then generally I'll then pick up my laptop again if I need to and just finish off whatever it is that needed to be done for the day.
Now, Lisa, looking back over your career, is there a particular moment, say a promotion you were given, a project that you undertook, or something that happened that may have changed the trajectory of what you were doing?
Definitely. So I spent 7 years in the UK working mostly in consulting, but I'd say a pivotal moment for me was being offered a position as customer services director at a relatively small energy retailer. I'd really wanted to try an executive level kind of leadership role within an organisation, and this was just the perfect opportunity for that. So I grabbed it with both hands. It was down in the south of England, so I was travelling quite a bit for it. Just that position in itself was a pivotal moment for me. But what actually ended up happening over the course of the next sort of 1.5 to 2 years was a bit of a rollercoaster. So I joined and we then, a few months later, entered into a divestment process. Our parent company decided that they were going to exit the UK market. So I went through that process, ultimately ended up migrating all of our customers to the successful buyer of the customer book, and we wound up, closed the business, made the entire company redundant, including myself, while I was pregnant with my oldest daughter and in the middle of the pandemic. So, yeah, I still look back on that time with so much gratitude for the people that I worked with, the experiences that we had, the way that we kind of showed up and worked through what at the time felt like a very challenging period, but as they often are, you look back at them so fondly and make such great kind of friends and connections for life.
So firstly, what were the main lessons that you learned as customer services director on that promotion?
Yeah, so one of the big lessons for me was all around communication and transparency. And I think, integrity has always been very important to me. But in that circumstance where there was just so many things going on and our employees knew that we were going through a divestment process, and then obviously in the latter end COVID started to hit and there was just even more kind of uncertainty and fear, being as honest as we possibly could, communicating as frequently as we could. As an exec, we had a bit of a mantra that there's no such thing as over communicating in a time like this. I think that was a really key key lesson for me. And then again, with the executive team, trust was just critical. So being able to be there for each other, to support each other, to put aside egos and functional boundaries and things like that. And just, we were there for our people, we were there for our customers.
So how did it feel for you personally, knowing that you were making yourself redundant ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, the pill is a lot easier to swallow when, that's happening to the whole company. It was really sad. I mean, it was devastating, to be honest. We all really loved and believed in this company. But at the same time, like I said, I was pregnant. I was on the other side of the world to my family. And at the later stages, we got a bit lonely. My husband and I, his family were in New Zealand. So in some ways, it became a bit of an unintended blessing, I guess, because it helped us make that decision that it was time to come back and resettle back in Melbourne.
Were you worried, or did you spend much time thinking about what you might do next and, will I get another job? You were pregnant at the time, which arguably might make getting another job a little bit harder.
I did and I didn't, to be honest. So I'd say thinking about what's next and how I would navigate that career and moving back to Melbourne was on my mind, but I wasn't panicked about it. I knew I had a little bit of time. I had a good network back in Melbourne. Yeah, I felt comfortable that I'd be able to find something.
Which clearly you did. So throughout the various highs and lows, what is the best piece of career advice you've ever been given?
So I worked for a really wonderful manager about 20 years ago, and there was a certain circumstance where a more senior colleague yelled at me, and I don't really remember what it was about. I don't even remember who it was, to be honest, but I remember being yelled at, and I got really upset, and I found it very difficult to recover and to stop crying, if I'm honest. And I said to her, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm strong enough for this. I don't think this is the right kind of place for me. And the advice or the lesson that I took from her was, don't assume that you can't do something tomorrow just because you can't do it today. Don't hold yourself back from being ambitious or giving something a go. And she said, I just want you to keep going. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. Go home, come back tomorrow, just keep going. And I promise you, in 5 years, you'll look back and you won't even remember what it was, and it'll seem really trivial to you, and you will have moved on. And I was really sure that wasn't true, but I thought, okay, I'll come back tomorrow and we'll see how we go. And she was more than right. Like I say, I can't even remember who it was or what the conversation was about. It certainly wouldn't make me cry today. And that's not to say that I don't get emotional about things, and, we all have imposter syndrome moments and things like that. But yeah, it was a real game changer for me, that advice. And it seems really obvious, but I think a lot of people are really comfortable knowing that they can learn content and they can develop technical skills, that they can go and do a course, or you can build your soft skills maybe. But we feel that things like resilience and confidence and, I guess, stakeholder kind of relationship management are more innate maybe, or personality traits, but I actually think you can really develop them. And so you shouldn't be holding yourself back because you think that, you're not capable of doing that today. And yeah, if you had have told that, I think I was 19 or 20, something like that at the time, if you had have told her that she'd be running a business 20 years later, there's no chance that she would have believed you.
Now, Lisa, stay where you are. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you pick the questions. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to 15 Minutes with the Boss. I'm here with Lisa Chiba, the Chief Executive of Momentum Energy. Now, Lisa, for this next section, I would normally ask you to pick out questions from a cardboard box. But you're in Melbourne, I'm in Sydney, so I'm afraid you'll need to trust me to pick them out on your behalf. Are you okay with that?
I am okay. Thank you, Sally.
Here I go. What are your favourite interview questions when hiring somebody, and why?
I suppose one of the things that I really like to understand is, what would you need from me to be successful in this role, and what would you need from the organisation, and where in particular do you think you would need support? I would typically ask that question in every interview, and what I'm really trying to look for is a level of self-awareness from the candidate in where their gaps might be and where they are genuinely going to need some of that support. Firstly, because it's just good to know if we think that there's some training that's required, or we need to create some space for them to learn a new part of the business, or we have to buddy them up with somebody, or they need, some coaching or whatever it is. It's really good to know upfront what that might be. But it also just gives me comfort that they have that level of self-awareness, that they understand that no one comes into a role fully formed, and that they're going to be really open to getting support, I suppose, and being open and authentic about where they need that help and that uplift in the first few months.
And do you find that most people can answer that question well, or do a lot of people really struggle with that self-awareness?
Yeah, it's a mix. I've certainly had candidates who haven't been able to answer it. I think when you extend it into development conversations as well, so as part of just an ongoing performance cycle, I have seen a tendency in a lot of the organisations I've worked at for people to focus on technical skills and content. So they might say, I need to learn more about pricing, or I need to understand more about the energy industry, or those sorts of things. And I think it's much more powerful when you can really reflect on yourself and your own traits and skills and capabilities beyond content and knowledge, and know where those kind of weak points are or strengths that you need to capitalise on further.
Okay, great. I'm going to have another fish in the box on your behalf.
Okay.
What is the most common piece of work or life advice that you actually think is, well, it's written here, BS?
If I think back, and I don't know why this is what's come to mind, but if I think back to almost school and uni days, there's this impression that's left on young adults that they need to make a career choice and that's it. And there's all this pressure on what subjects are you going to take and what uni course you're going to go to, and all this pressure. And now I look back and I've changed jobs many times. I've changed companies, I've changed careers, I've changed countries, and it's all been positive. Even the couple of instances where perhaps that role or that job wasn't quite right for me, it hasn't been a bad thing. It's just, helped me along in the journey and given me maybe resilience or some new skills, or, a bit more confirmation on what I do enjoy doing. So I think, no career choice is ever a bad choice. It's all a bit of a journey. So yeah, that's what comes to mind is that really strong kind of sense you get given when you're younger, that it's this one choice and that's it. And if you make a mistake or you don't get the marks, then, it's all over.
So what message do you think we should be giving to kids at school? What do you think would be a better message?
I think curiosity. Just never stop being curious. Say yes to opportunities. Yeah, to some extent, I suppose, follow your passions, but I don't think that means it has to be your hobby, but just follow the things that you're naturally enjoying in your workplace or in your studies.
And in terms of having a career plan?
I didn't set out to be a CEO or to run a company. I couldn't have told you in high school or even university what industry I would end up in. If I'm job hunting, I've done this in the past, I would set up a seek alert for anything within my salary range in Melbourne. And I would just look through all the jobs, and obviously most of them I can't do, like general practitioner and those sorts of things. But I would find that really exciting to see all the different opportunities out there and really try and broaden my thinking and my perspective on what might be possible and where my career could take me. Obviously, moving overseas as well was really an exciting change that led to some great opportunity as well. So, I think you don't need to know exactly where you're trying to end up. You can still have a really, great sequence of activities and career moves anyway.
Okay, let's have another fish. If you could give a TED talk on something not related to business, what would you talk about?
So what's coming to mind, and I'd certainly need to do a bit more soul searching on this before I would be qualified for a TED talk on it, but it's something around identity and what that means growing up. And it's probably top of mind because my oldest daughter just started school this week. So it's resurfaced all my nostalgia and thoughts of, starting school and growing up. I'm half Japanese. I'm female. I've always looked reasonably young, more in the kind of work setting, I suppose. But it was a different thing being half Japanese back in the kind of 80s and 90s to what it is today. And yeah, I think it would be some sort of reflection on that perhaps.
So how did you find school as a half Japanese young girl when you first went to school?
I mean, great. I never experienced any, overt racism or anything like that. I don't think I have any trauma related to it, but it's just interesting. My dad's a Japanese chef, and we're probably slightly more unusual in that my mum's Australian and my dad's Japanese. But, I have memories of him giving me sushi for lunch and I chucked it out because I was too embarrassed. I just wanted the cheese sandwich. Yeah, my daughter's begging us for sushi these days in her lunchbox, and she's 5. So there's some interesting things around that, and I think more how it reflected on me and how I positioned myself or felt truly Australian. I never felt Japanese. I mean, I am half Japanese. I love it over there. My family are amazing. I love visiting, but I definitely feel Australian, but I perhaps haven't always felt that I looked Australian. Again, don't want to turn it into something bigger. Like I said, there's no trauma, but it's just an interesting reflection for me on how that might inform the way you think about yourself, the way you present, the way you assume others kind of see you. And yeah, it's just something I've reflected on slightly with my daughter starting school.
So do you think it has shaped you in some way?
Yeah, I don't doubt that it has. I'm really proud of having dual heritage. I think having even a glimpse of another culture is really enlightening and really opens your eyes to different cultures and different ways of living and working. The Japanese culture is quite different to the Australian, and I'm always fascinated to go and visit and see that in action. So yeah, I have no doubt that it has.
Now, Lisa, I've got one final question for you, and that is, if you were not, for some reason, the chief executive of Momentum Energy, what would you be doing?
I've always felt that there's a book inside me. So I'd love to write a book, like a fiction book. And I think while I did that, I would breed my beautiful Border Terrier.
So Lisa, on that note, our time is up. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend 15 minutes with the boss. It's been such a delight talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sally. It's been great.
And thank you to everyone for listening. If you like the podcast and you want to hear more, consider sharing the podcast or writing a review, as it helps us to reach more people. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. At the Financial Review, we investigate the big stories about markets, business and power. For more, go to afr.com, and you can subscribe to the Financial Review, the daily habit of successful people, at afr.com/subscribe. This podcast was hosted by me, Sally Patton, produced and edited by Iona Rennie. Head of audio is Alex Gow, and our executive producer is Fiona Buffini. See you next week.
The Australian Financial Review.